Hello, my name is Britt Isenberg. I'm a Leadership Program Director for the Gettysburg Foundation. I'd like to introduce Casey Turben, who's a Civil War historian, also an advisor to the McCormick Civil War Institute. We're at the historic Jordan Springs estate outside of Winchester, Virginia. Casey, could you tell us a little about where we're at?
Yeah, so this is a historic property here that today hosts weddings. There's all sorts of multicultural events, but at the time of the Civil War was the home of the Jordan family and the property where Johnson's division and brigade came down and captured pertinent information here that led them to Milroy's forces to outflank them at Stevenson's Depot out on Route 11.
Very good, very good. So what can you tell us about the community of Winchester? We're only a couple miles north, basically,
yeah,
as far as what their experience is like during this period?
Yeah, so Winchester, most people know, has that trivial fact of being the town that switched hands the most during the Civil War. Estimates waver from almost to the hundreds, the kind of accepted numbers, the 70s, but this town was constantly rubbing shoulders with both blue and gray soldiers for the duration of the war. As far as the demographics, about 80% of the population was staunchly Confederate. Anywhere from 15 to 20% would be Unionist or kind of indifferent. So.
Very good. Are there any particular stories with regards to the civilian experience you might be willing to share with us?
Yeah, so a lot of the people familiar with Winchester, and especially the post-Confederate Civil War movement, know about the strong Southern woman, and there are a few of them that come out of Winchester that are known as the devil diarists. And these are women that, mainly in response to Milroy, write extensively about how tough Milroy's occupation is on the people of Winchester. And going to that civilian experience, when Milroy rolls into town, he makes essentially a fact where if you do not take an oath of allegiance to the Union Army, you cannot buy foodstuffs. And that affects 8 out of 10 people in this town. So.
Yeah, very good. So quite a turbulent time. What can you tell us, especially considering the political environment as it stands in 1863 with the Emancipation Proclamation having been issued in January? What is the experience like for black citizens here or slaves in Winchester?
So with Winchester having constant occupation, the Emancipation Proclamation is welcome news, but you've had federal troops in the valley for 2 years at that point. They have had opportunities to leave, some have, but with the welcome news when Milroy rolls into town, you now have an advocate, someone that's marching farm to farm, from person to person, and saying, if you want to be emancipated, come with me. Yeah. And that's new.
This is interesting, especially, you know, when we talk about Union officers, I think Milroy is sometimes a forgotten figure. Is that fair to say? I don't want to...
I think he's either forgotten or maligned.
Maligned, so, yeah. Very good, very good. Well, so Casey, if people want to come here to Winchester to try to experience some of this history for themselves, what would you recommend?
Okay, so there's a book, the book. My mentor and friend Jonathan Loyalis wrote a book in 2019 that's entitled, I believe it's the Slavery in the Shenandoah Valley and the Civil War. Excellent book, gives you everything you need to know about the black and slave experience in the area. The Shenandoah Valley Battlefield Foundation has done an excellent job with their app and adding content that's, you know, pertinent to the black experience as well.
All right, so we're inside the house now, adjacent to the original limestone wall here. But our series is titled Faces on the Front Line. And we're just talking about Milroy and the Devil Diarist. Interesting. Can we dive a little bit deeper on that?
Yeah, so one of the best stories, I believe, from the Devil Diarist comes from a woman named Cornelia Peake McDonald. And the story is that her friend, Julia Baker, had went to Milroy's headquarters at the Logan House in Winchester trying to seek relief. She was a Confederate sympathizer saying, hey, I need to feed my livestock, I need to feed my family. And Milroy says, no, if you don't take this oath, you can't do it. And at the same time, knock, knock, knock on the door, 2 African-American women show up. Milroy escorts Mrs. Baker out and brings the black women in. And of course, that offends every Southern lady's sensibility at the time. She goes and tells her friend Cornelia, and they make a pseudo semi-racist Valentine to send to Milroy and leave it to him anonymously on Valentine's Day, 1863.
All right, Casey, so let's take a look at the other side of that story. Let's talk about a specific experience of an African-American that...
Sure. So with Milroy's emancipation, the decision to make yourself free and follow the emancipation order or not becomes a deeply personal and difficult decision for some people. And some some people, they don't get to make that decision. What happens when Milroy eventually is pulled out of Winchester, or vacates Winchester, there are free black individuals that live in Winchester that are swallowed up by Ewell's army and are forced and impressed into slavery. So one specific example is a gentleman named Leroy Jenkins, who had lived his entire life free. He's in his early 30s. He is called up in Ewell's army after the aftermath of the battle. He spends 8 days with the army. When Ewell starts marching towards Gettysburg, he recognizes his opportunity, and what he does is he runs to a nearby well, jumps in, and commits suicide. So that's just an example that here, even in the valley, being free, being enslaved, there was a lot of liquidity there.
Yeah, the side of the war that you don't hear about.
Exactly.
My goodness. Wow. All right, Casey, I just want to say thank you very much for being willing to share your expertise with us.
Absolutely.
And be a part of this campaign. Also, thank you to the historic Jordan Springs estate. And folks, come on down here and check all this out. It's an amazing part of the history of the Gettysburg campaign, and you'll have some new experiences as well.